What's up, RotoGrinders? Welcome to take 2 of the NFL Showdown pre-lock show. We totally weren't just talking, thinking we were live for the last 3 minutes until Tim astutely pointed out that the recording did not go. We were not live. We were talking to absolutely no one, just rehearsing. I am your host today, TJ Zwarych, joined by my friend TastefulTides, Tim Buell. How you doing today, Tim?
I'm just really glad that I said something because I almost didn't say anything at all, just assuming that you had it all figured out. But I'm glad that I realized that we were, in fact, not live on YouTube, or else we would have just done 45 minutes to absolutely nobody. So, yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to this 4-game slate. I think that, FanDuel is not as fun because they broke up their slates, but I really like what DK did, just making their main slate the 4-gamer. We will definitely touch on the FanDuel 2-gamer, but I think we're going to focus primarily on the DK 4-game slate.
Absolutely. We'll focus more on that 4-gamer. We will still break down in depth the 2 games today, but kind of just be able to help people apply it to the context of the 4-game slate, apply it to the context of the 2-game slate. If you have any questions at all, throw them in the RotoGrinders live stream Discord chat, throw them in the YouTube chat. If you're watching us on YouTube, all we ask, free content on a Saturday. All we ask is that you smash the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our future shows. Britt and I will be back tomorrow for a Sunday pre-log show. And later today, Tim and Will be breaking down the NBA slate. But it's going to be a bit of a combo show, if I hear correctly. You're going to talk a little showdown NFL for that one as well. Appreciate you guys handling that one on your own. I'm going to be going to a concert tonight. So going to be enjoying that. I'm still a little bit congested, but like not actually sick anymore. It just kind of feels like just things are just kind of fill, but I'm finally feeling energetic, back, ready to go. And so going to go have some fun this evening, but it does mean that I can't watch Washington and Detroit. I'm playing 20 lineups for the weekend, but I'm not going to be able to watch Washington and Detroit. Probably the most fun fantasy game. Obviously, Bills and Ravens is really the big showdown we are waiting on for the last weekend. But the people are already in chat asking for the Fuel It in Your Plums plays. They're asking for prop bets. So we got both of these things today. We're going to go through and build a little bit of a Splash Sports card. If we got the QQs, we will go right here up until lock. If not, we will get out of here a little bit early, leave some time for you to build your lineups. But we do still have about 40 minutes here before the first game of the NFL Divisional Round takes place. Houston, Kansas City. This is probably the least or second least exciting game on the 4-game slate. It's got a big spread. It's got a low total. 16 points implied team total for Houston is the lowest on the board. But Patrick Mahomes projecting for a lot of ownership here and looking like he might be one of the top options on the slate.
Yeah, I mean, Patrick Mahomes, given this matchup at 6K, I think is extremely, extremely cheap. I think he's going to be pretty high owned as well. And then he's got just so many. And I think one of the reasons why he's going to project for such high ownership and end up being so high owned is because he has really, really cheap stacking partners, and they're they're good stacking partners. Like this is a quality set of wide receivers that he has for this matchup. So, we currently have Mahomes for over 20% projected owned. And then you pair him with, I mean, you could really even triple stack Mahomes pretty easily here because we've got Xavier Worthy, we got Marquise Brown, we got DeAndre Hopkins, and then we have Travis Kelce. Worthy is the most expensive out of those 4 guys that I just mentioned at 5,200. And so you got Marquise Brown, who I think is going to end up being even higher owned than we have projected. I think he's going to end up, I think Marquise Brown is going to get mega steamed. I could be wrong, but either way, even if he hangs out in that, I don't know what's he at right now, like around 20%. Yeah, 25%. Even if he hangs out at the 25% range, I think he's going to end up a little bit higher than what we currently have. We have him at 17 right now.
Yeah.
I think he might get steamed up to like 25, 30. Like because currently we have Worthy in that 25 projected own percentage, but I think it ends up flip flopping, and I think Brown's going to end up being chalkier than Worthy, or I think it's going to be, I think that gap narrows between the two. I am curious kind of about what the field does with Travis Kelce, because there's definitely he's washed narrative going around the industry right now, which he is definitely way past his prime. But 5K in a home playoff matchup where they're favored by so much, I would imagine. I mean, Mahomes is going to be connecting with Kelce, and that price is so cheap. It would not shock me if he got a little, even if he got steamed a little bit as well.
It's a super interesting way to look at it, because if you want to base it on the sample size we have this season of what the Chiefs offense is, they're basically in the same tier as Matt Stafford and CJ Stroud here at the bottom of the slate, the least interesting stack on the slate. If you look at it and say, it's the playoffs now, this is Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Andy Reid, and the Chiefs in playoffs. They're going to play like the Chiefs we've known for the last 5 years. It's the best stack on the slate because they're severely underpriced. And so it's really interesting, because I feel like for their prices, I love them. For their ownership, I want to go underweight. I do think it's super interesting to look at a Mahomes stack and say, hey, I'm just going to play DeAndre Hopkins, the future Hall of Famer. Hope he gets 2 touchdowns. And at sub 5% projected ownership for this 4-game slate, that's a really easy way to get difference with that stack. But I do think it's important to consider if you're playing Mahomes, Kelce, 1 to 2 of Hollywood and Worthy, running it back with Mechie on the other side. The one way that's feeling pretty beautiful is because it allows you to spend up for Gibbs, probably 2 of Gibbs, Barkley, or Henry. But it's going to have to keep in mind that will be a fairly chalky build for this weekend.
Oh yeah, that's going to be, like, I would assume, the chalkiest build on this entire 4-game slate. And just to be clear, Butthole is asking, how is 97 receptions washed? Like, I'm not saying he's washed, but I am saying, like, he is past his prime. And I think there's been a narrative around the industry that he is a little bit washed. I was not saying that he's completely washed, but he's definitely past his prime.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And it's just a matter of, well, will that matter in a playoff setting? Over the case of a long season, older players slow down a little bit over the course of a whole season. They don't have it every single game. But when it's loading up for one playoff game, you're trying to win a Super Bowl here, they do tend to kind of remember that they're stars and play to the best of their abilities for those games. So Mahomes and Kelce definitely interesting here. Worth noting that they're going to be fairly chalky. If we look at our Sims tool here for DraftKings, Mahomes does have the highest optimal rate on the slate, but also the highest projected ownership. So this is absolutely looking like it's going to be the chalkiest stack on the slate. Do you have any interest in going to Houston at all? Personally, I'm like,
I
have
do.
one
I
Nico
do.
Collins, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a few John Mechie's, but I'm full fading Mixon.
Yeah, I have absolutely no issue with the Mixon fade. I was kind of looking at Mechie or Dalton Schultz. In theory, this should be a pretty decent Dalton Schultz spot, and at 3,300, I mean, I'm not like the biggest Schultz guy. I know there's a lot of opportunity cost at tight end this week, like at least around that price point There's a lot of really, really strong tight ends, but I think Schultz and Mechie would be the 2 guys that would be getting to. I'm actually considering playing one of these 2 guys in my primary single entry team. I'm probably going to go double tight end, so it's probably going to be Schultz. But I really don't mind taking a stab at John Mechie, and in large field or single entry GPPs, they're likely going to be playing from behind. I think that we can all agree on that. Mechie is starting to see some consistent target share. So at his price point and his ownership, I really don't mind Mechie.
Yeah, Mechie is probably going to be my favorite player from the Houston side of things. I'm not getting to as much Schultz just because Isaiah Likely is the guy that I'm heavily prioritizing at tight end this week. And so it does lead me to get to a little bit less Schultz, but with their backup tight ends out of this game, and he is their pure number 2 receiving option at this point. And so I don't hate the Schultz call by any means. I'm just not getting there very much personally. Washington and Detroit is when things get spicy. 32-point total for Detroit, one of the highest implied team totals we've seen all season long. And Washington, big underdog, 9.5 points, but they still have a huge, or 8.5 points, but they still have a huge implied team total for this one. And so this is definitely the most exciting game on the 2 game slate, but it's also the most exciting game on the 4 game slate from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, and it should be a really good showdown slate as well tonight. So I think that'll be a really fun showdown game as well. Yeah, Jaden Daniels is my favorite quarterback on the 4 game slate. I like him better, price considered. I like him better than Josh Allen and Lamar. I think that $700-800 difference between those 2 quarterbacks does matter on the slate. So I am rolling with Jaden Daniels on my single entry team. I think that you're going like if you're playing cash or double ups, I think you're going either Daniels or probably Mahomes. But I'm rolling with Daniels on this slate. 7K. This game, I guess we're hoping that Detroit doesn't, employ that kind of, just hold on to the ball and just run the ball and run clock. I'm hoping that's not the case. And if that doesn't end up happening, this game should be a really good, shootout game. So I do like Daniels quite a bit, and obviously I like pieces on the other side as well.
How are you prioritizing these Detroit running backs? David Montgomery is completely off the injury reports. He's practiced in full all week. He has not played in a few weeks. And meanwhile, Jahmyr Gibbs has been incredible. There has been a report that Gibbs is still going to be the lead back in this one. It's not going to be the same as it was before. The way I'm personally playing in that is I don't really believe it. I'm not really buying it. I do think David Montgomery I think lead back for Gibbs probably means Gibbs is going to get 60% of the snaps and Montgomery is going to get 40. I'm quite heavy on David Montgomery at only 5,700 this week. How are you handling these 2 backs? And then lead it into Gibbs, Henry, Barkley. How are you prioritizing those 3?
I kind of agree with you, TJ, that I think that's going to be closer to a 50-50 with Montgomery and Gibbs. Don Easy in chat says in 2 game we're playing both. Like, yeah, definitely. You can definitely do that. I'd probably
and a reminder that David Montgomery on FanDuel is 4K. You're playing him no matter what.
Yeah, and on FanDuel you're playing David Montgomery no matter what. I don't care. Like I don't even want to even go the game theory angle with him. He's just at that price. I think you just have to eat it. Doesn't matter what contest size you're playing. I say just play him. So our projections team feels differently than we do though, TJ. And so I am going to listen to our projections team, and they have, I think, 16 rush attempts to Montgomery's 9 or 10. So
which I think is still reasonable, and it honestly still makes me want to play Montgomery on both sides.
I certainly would not fault anybody if they wanted to play Montgomery on DraftKings. I don't think that's a bad play at all. I'm just saying what I'm personally doing is that I'm gonna roll with Gibbs, but that could end up being a mistake. And I think if you're making multiple teams, you should be getting to both of these guys on the same team, honestly, because we have seen plenty of Lions shootouts this season where plenty of players, including both of them, end up being on the optimal. So I have no issue if you want to pair them together. I think, this is a small enough slate, and I think there could be enough shootout potential in this game where you can play both of them. But I am playing just Gibbs. And then you asked Gibbs, Henry, Barkley. It's tough, but I'm looking to fade. I'm going to be fading Henry, but I mean, and I'm rostering Barkley. So my two running backs are going to be Barkley and Gibbs. But I mean, between those three, that's super tough. And then I think we have to discuss Kyron and Cook as well. I mean, Kyron should get tons of opportunities against the Eagles. So I think that Kyron makes for a really, really strong GPP play just because of the amount of volume he should get, and he's going to get all the red zone work. So I think Kyron is a really, really good play. I see that Sims has Kyron slightly negative leverage, but not too bad given his 24% opto rate. So I mean, he's not. I think Kyron's a really, really strong play in this slate.
In my 20 lineups, I'm going the full fade on Kyron Williams and Joe Mixon. I do think I have one, maybe James Cook, but I actually might have gone the full fade of him as well. I like him the best of the group just because he's projecting for the lowest ownership. It's a terrible matchup against the Ravens, but it's also a terrible matchup against the Eagles. It's a terrible matchup against the Chiefs. And so James Cook is my favorite of that group. Derrick Henry is the one I'm going to be prioritizing the most, but I am trying to get at least one Detroit running back in every lineup that I'm playing. One of Gibbs or Montgomery, but I'm totally fine playing both together. And, like Swaggy P in chat says, if you're playing Gibbs and Montgomery together, that means you're fading Goff. I don't think it does. We've seen on a full slate this year, the team that won the Millie Maker had 8 Detroit Lions on it. 8 on DraftKings won the Millie Maker. And so on a 4-game slate, especially on the 2-game slate, I think you can just do the Detroit onslaught of onslaughts. Play Goff, Gibbs, Montgomery, St. Brown, Williams, Laporta. Throw their defense in there too. You can play all of them. And if they score 45 points and no other team on the slate scores more than 28, that could be the winning lineup in tournaments this week. So I'm loading up on the Detroit guys. I'm playing a lot of Gibbs and Montgomery together, a few full onslaughts in my 20 lineups. Goff in 5 of 20 is going to be my highest owned QB. I have Daniels in 4, Allen in 4, Lamar in 4, Mahomes in 3, and Goff in 5. So that's how I'm building today. Detroit is my heaviest team, but I'm still kind of trying to differentiate throughout the group.
Are you getting to any Austin? Are you getting to any Austin Eckler?
I do have a touch. I think I have one Austin Eckler and a Jaden Daniels team. That's like a full stack of that game. I think I went Eckler, Gibbs, and Montgomery with Jaden Daniels in that one. And so I do have him in one lineup. And then I think I have Ty Johnson super cheap in one lineup too. But other than that, I'm just going to Gibbs, Barkley, Henry, Montgomery in basically every single lineup.
Yeah, I kind of like getting to one of these cheap running backs because you could fill that util spot that most people are going to fill with a tight end, with a third running back. I think most people are going to go 2 tight ends today. So getting to like one of these guys like Eckler, like Pacheco, like a Ty Johnson, even a Kareem Hunt or Justice Hill. I mean, there's plenty of these 5K guys that you can throw into your util spot that are not getting a lot of ownership, just to make a different kind of build.
Yeah, I agree. In any lineup, I'm not going 3 running backs. I'm going 2 tight ends, and I think the 2 tight end approach probably is optimal this week. My highest combo, though, of running back and flex this week will be Gibbs, Barkley, Henry, paying up for all 3 of them, spending way down at the receiver position. That's my favorite style of building this week. Let's talk about that receiver position. We got Nico Collins and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Terry McLaurin really as a spend up for these games that I really, really like, and they're all really good options. I find myself not getting to very much St. Brown, Collins, or even if you look at the next day, Nakua or Brown, because I'm choosing to prioritize the running backs on the slate over the expensive wide receivers.
So my single entry team, I'm playing a Washington-Detroit game stack. So I'm loading up on both sides. So I have Amon-Ra and I have Terry McLaurin. So that's just the route that I'm taking. But I don't mind, honestly. I don't mind going that cheap kind of mid-range build if you want to pay up for all the running backs. That's just not the way that I'm going today. I think Amon-Ra is my favorite. Amon-Ra is my favorite in terms of like raw points. I know that I think Puka projects better, but I would prefer getting to Amon-Ra. So Amon-Ra is like my cash game guy. He's my single entry guy, and then I think when considering price, I think Terry McLaurin at 6,300 is way too cheap today. So those two are my favorites. And then I think, going down, like we already talked about, like Hollywood Brown, I think is a fantastic play. Xavier Worthy, obviously, Hopkins and GPPs. I think Khalil Shakir. I mean, he's popping in a ton of optimals right now. He's only 5K. I would consider him more of like a floor play, like more of a cash game play.
He's like the most important cash game play on the slates, I think, and he's probably the best tournament fade on the slate.
Yeah. What is he showing up in opt? Yeah. Oh, I guess he's getting decent positive leverage. So, I mean, I don't think he's a horrible GPP play, but he's just not.
The reason I disagree is just because he has no ceiling. Like he has.
That's kind of what I feel like too.
He had 3 red zone targets all season. They just don't go to him down there. If he gets a big game, it's because he broke a bunch of tackles and made a big run, which he can do, absolutely. But he just doesn't have the ceiling that the rest of those guys, even in his range, have. So, like, I think because his median projection is so good, I think that's why his optimal rate is so high. But his median projection is a lot closer to his ceiling than any of these other players. So I think you're never going to lose a tournament because you don't have Khalil Shakir, Like, you might win with 15 points from him and you feel really good, but you're not going to lose because you didn't have him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I completely agree with that take, but I mean, that's kind of the way that I'm looking at it also. I think of him more as like a cash game play or smaller field GPP type play.
2 of these receiver plays are 2 of my favorite plays on the entire slate, and that is Rashad Bateman at $100 less than Shakir. I think he is the perfect pivot. We didn't see a ton of volume for him last week without Zay Flowers, but it was also an absolutely horrific matchup for him. He was getting. Who did they just play last week? Sorry, I'm having my brain fart, and I want to make sure I actually call the specific corner correctly. Steelers. And so they're going toe-to-toe with the Steelers. They had Joey Porter on him the entire game, and they are just give up a ton of yards right down the middle of the field, not to the outside receiver. And the Bills are similar, but they don't have quite that same shutdown corner. And so I like Rashad Bateman at 4,900 quite a bit. He gets the red zone looks as opposed to a guy like Khalil Shakir. Even though Worthy's chalky at 5,200, I do really like Xavier Worthy as well. I think Devonta Smith is a great play at low ownership. But my other favorite receiver play on the slate, I like McLaurin at 63, but Jameson Williams at 61. I love him this week. He is one of my favorite tournament plays. When we get to the prop stuff, go through our Splash Sports conversation, he is going to be heavily involved for me there as well. JMO is my favorite of the group.
I absolutely love JMO. I think he's a really, really strong GPP play. 6,100. Getting a little bit of negative leverage, but I don't really care. I think this game shoots out. So if you wanted to like do a double, like with like Goff, Amon-Ra, Jameson, something like that, and then like maybe fade the running backs, kind of like flip the script in like a large field GPP, I don't mind that at all. But I mean, Williams could essentially get there in 2 catches, because he's such a home run hitter. So definitely don't mind Williams at all in GPP.
Let's go down to the Super Chief stuff and, Amari Cooper, Zacchaeus, Brown, Coleman, Robinson, Hopkins, a lot of big names in this range. But I feel like the safest ones, the ones we feel best about, are probably John Mechie and Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown 1, Mechie 2. But for tournaments, I think Diami Brown, Olamide Zacchaeus, even DeAndre Hopkins, maybe a little bit of Tim Patrick. I think all of these guys are pretty interesting for tournaments. And I do actually have a lineup where we can see their optimal rates are terrible. But I'm looking at this situation and I'm thinking, okay, these guys play a decent amount of snaps. And if I can get over 100 points from my 3 running backs in QB, Josh Allen, Derrick Henry, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Saquon Barkley. I can play all 4 of those guys together if I stack up Josh Allen with Mac Hollins and Curtis Samuel. Now, will Mac Hollins and Curtis Samuel both perform? Probably not. But they're on the field, and if they happen to score a touchdown, that's a really, really good way to, I think, potentially win a GPP if all of the expensive options hit. So I do think there's a lot of these really cheap guys who are in play, and since I'm prioritizing the running backs, I'm getting to them.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously do not mind that at all for GPPs. Zacchaeus is probably my favorite in terms of tournaments. Brown would be my favorite in terms of cash games, followed by Mechie, and then, Hollywood Brown for cash games, and then Diami Brown for GPPs, just to clarify that. And then, do you have any interest at all in guys like Keon Coleman or Amari Cooper? Like, I know that they have not been great, but they're just so cheap.
Not really, but I actually do think I have one Amari Cooper, Keon Coleman stack with Josh Allen just because it just worked. I was building a lineup. I put in my running backs first, and I had mid 4Ks left for some receivers, and so I just plugged in Amari Cooper, Keon Coleman, Rashad Bateman, and went from there.
Yep, I like that play. I like that stack quite a bit. Trying to think who I probably wouldn't take anybody under. I guess Xavier Hutchinson might be okay for like super large field. Justin Watson for super large field. But I think in single entry, I would not go below Diami Brown at 3,900. I think that would be the lowest player. Or no, I guess Mechie at 38 would be as low as I'd go.
Yeah, I think that makes sense from a single entry perspective. And then if you are trying to win the Millie Maker, like if Jamison Crowder gets back on the field and catches a touchdown at 3,200, you'd be feeling really good about your Jaden Daniels lineups with him. So it's like you can really punt with anybody with their quarterback as long as they're going to get on the field a little bit in those super large field, ton of money up top type of contest.
Or like a triple or quad with Mahomes and Smith-Schuster and or Watson, something like that. I mean, and just hope that Kansas City goes completely off on the game. I think getting those guys in super large field is okay.
Tight end position, we talked about how this is likely a 2 tight end type of day. To me, it's either 3 running backs or 2 tight ends. If you're going optimally, though, I'm probably saving salary at 2 of these tight end positions. Who are your favorites of this group? We have Kelsey projecting with the highest optimal rate, also the highest ownership, but still a bit of positive leverage. Schultz has a bunch of positive leverage. Laporta looks like he's projecting really well. Ertz has a ton of positive leverage. Goddard has a ton of positive leverage. Am I a fish for liking Likely and Andrews the best?
I don't think you're a fish, but yeah, I mean, they do seem a little bit over-owned, but I don't think they're bad plays at all. I really like Likely as well at 3,500. Sam Laporta is probably my favorite because with just considering price, ownership, and just all that, I'd say Laporta is my favorite. I really like paying down for Dalton Schultz. He's only 3,300 and he's projected for the 4th most points out of any tight end. So, I mean, I think that's really good value on Schultz, and it doesn't appear as if he's going to be ultra chalky either. So, I do like Schultz. Obviously, you can play Travis Kelce. I mean, he's only 5K. So he's a completely fine play. I'm not playing him, but I think Kelce's fine. I see Mark Andrews tagged by just about everybody. I don't have that super strong conviction behind him just because I think there's other plays around him that are fantastic as well. I'd rather play Laporta for $300 less. I'd rather, or just get up to Kelce for $500 more. So, and the other thing is I'd rather play Likely over Andrews. So I prefer the other tight end on the same team. So I guess I'm not as enthused by Mark Andrews.
Yeah, waiting for Sunday. Isaiah Likely is definitely going to be my first choice. Laporta is number 2. And on the 2-game slate on Saturday, Laporta would be my first choice. I don't think I'm getting up to to Travis Kelce unless I'm also playing Patrick Mahomes. Having said that, if I need a flex in the 5K range, I do like Kelce better than Hunt, better than Pacheco, better than Eckler, better than Brian Robinson. Eckler is the only one that really comes close in that range to me. But for the full weekend, I would have them Likely 1, Laporta 2, Andrews 3, Goddard 4, Schultz 5, I think. And so Kelce actually would fall outside of the top 5 for me because I would just rather be saving salary unless I'm playing Patrick Mahomes. We want to do a splash card and we want to make sure that we're hitting all the questions here. We got about 12 minutes left to lock, and I do see a lot of questions beginning to pile in. So I want to make sure we're hitting all those. Get them in the RotoGrinders live stream Discord chat. Get them in the YouTube chat. YouTube, smash the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff for us. We really do appreciate it. And we're going to take a look over at Splash Sports in a second. But before we do that, you can get your expert picks for all your favorite sites with Props and Pick'em. Our elite sports betting and fantasy pick'em package features bets and analysis from your favorite RotoGrinders experts. Props and Pick'em also includes tools and data powered by our hard-working projections team. Don't make a bet without it. Or if you're not in the prop streets, you just want some SimLabs and some articles, you can get RotoGrinders Combo Lite, only $19.99. We're taking $10 off your first month. That means access to SimLabs and some of your favorite content from your favorite RotoGrinders analysts. Or if you want to get a little bit more, you can check out the Combo Pro package because the PGA Tour is back in action. So you can get content from some familiar faces like Noto, like STL Cards, and you get the PGA DFS product with NFL, with NBA, with MLB coming up. You get Lineup HQ, you get SimLabs, you get the videos, you get the articles. It's only $79.99 a month. Plus, and the moment you've all been waiting for, Splash Sports. If you haven't signed up for Splash Sports, now is the time. Use promo ROTO10, and when you play $100 in Quick Picks, you get $50 right back. So if you get too excited, you blow your bankroll, you're not doing proper bankroll management, hey, it's fine. You get $50. You're going to get right back to take a chance with. Let's go through some of our favorite props on the day. We both teased how much we like Jameson Williams. That's the first place that I want to go here. Jameson Williams, more than 55.5 receiving yards, is my favorite prop of the whole weekend.
I do like that. I am going with Kansas City hasn't played, Mahomes has not played in a couple of weeks. I'm going to go with his over or more 25.5 rush yards. That's my favorite.
I love that. That's on my list this week as well. That's literally number 3 for me. So I love when we get both of those at the same app. It's 25.5 on Splash Sports, but I still like that number there as well.
Yeah, and then staying in the same game, I'm going with Nico Collins less than 80.5 receiving yards.
Nico Collins less than 80.5. I don't disagree with it by any means, but it scares me. 79.5. Are you still good with it?
Yep.
All right. Next one, I would want to go to Isaiah Likely. We talked about him being my favorite tight end play on the slate. You like getting him as well. Over 36.5 receiving yards. I like for Likely quite a bit today. Well, I guess
and then I have
more.
And then I have one more. I think Detroit possesses the ball and keeps rushing the ball throughout the game. So I'm going with Jared Goff less than 274.5 passing yards.
Scary as well in case this one does go into a shootout, but I don't hate it whatsoever. We got 5 picks here. That means 25x over on Splash Sports. You put down $20, get you 500 right back. So check out splashsports.com/RotoGrinders homepage. Use code ROTO10 and you get, if you spend $100 in Quick Picks, you get $50 right back. So make sure you check out Splash Sports. Those are our favorite prop plays of the day. We got some questions now, but before that, let's do our Feel It in the Plums play. Tim, for me, it's the same person over the course of the weekend as it is on the 2-game slate here for Saturday. It's Jameson Williams. I think he's going to have well over 100 yards and a touchdown.
Don't mind that at all. I thought this player was going to be a little bit more chalky. Turns out he isn't, so this makes me like him even more. I'm going to go with Dalton Schultz. Scores over. I'm going to go over 15 DK points at 3,300. So I like Dalton Schultz to be in the optimal large field GPP winning team.
I like it. We got a question from Andrew Aburn and then Brian Strickland. Likely or Schultz for DK Cash, and then Saturday only tight end. Who's your favorite? Personally, I like Likely better for Cash, but I think projections are saying that it's Schultz. And
I like Schultz better for Cash.
And so for Saturday only, I think Schultz would be the guy that we'd be looking to there as well, especially since Likely is not over until Sunday. Let's go take some more questions here. And again, get them in the RotoGrinders live stream Discord chat. We'll go there first. We'll go to the YouTube chat next. Who would be your favorite quarterback play if you're only playing one for the FanDuel single entry contest for Houston and Kansas City, sorry. Obviously, Mahomes is the guy if you can get them, and I think I'd want to play both. But honestly, I would prioritize Stroud a little bit more because on FanDuel, Mahomes is $15K and Stroud's only $12,500.
Yeah, that's a pretty significant price gap there. I'd probably go Stroud.
Yeah, that would be my priority too, but I probably would be trying to get both of them in there. Who are your favorite running backs for the Saturday slate? Honestly, for me, it's both guys on the same team. Montgomery and Gibbs is just playing both of them.
Montgomery, Gibbs. I don't mind Eckler to get exposure to that game. I think it's a pretty decent spot for Eckler. And then, it should be a good script for the KC running backs. So I think you can take shots on Pacheco and Hunt, but I think TJ's right. I would prioritize Montgomery, Gibbs.
When you are doing your single entry stuff, do you ever enter like small little 4-man contests, winner takes all? If so, what strategy would you use for there? I said to LMI, who asked that, I typically run it similar to a cash game single entry style when the contest is that small. How about you?
Yeah, if it's that small, I would run something very, very close to a cash game optimal. I personally do not play those, though.
On Saturday only slates, would you say Collins or St. Brown or both are must-haves?
I don't think Collins is. I'd say Mon-Ra is pretty close, but I don't think Collins is a must-have even on the Saturday.
Who do you like better, DeAndre Hopkins or Olamide Zaccheaus? Just in a vacuum, straight up.
Straight up, I'm going Zaccheaus.
I think I am too. Who would be your favorite MVP in FanDuel tournaments for both games today? Look, optimally speaking, in the first one, it's obviously Mahomes, but I think my favorite one to get a little bit different would be Xavier Worthy. And then in the second game, just taking a peek at the projected ownerships right now, it's looking like Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be the highest owned one. And so I would probably be going Jaden Daniels there. But anytime you could get Jared Goff as the 4th highest projected owned guy, I think that's super interesting for tournaments running at the MVP position too. What do you think?
Yeah, I would go Mahomes, and then for the other game's a little bit trickier. I personally think that I would go Jahmyr Gibbs.
Any interest in Khalil Shakir? Shakir we like as a cash game play, but think it's probably a good tournament fade at that high of ownership with him having shown a very high ceiling. DK Cash, Jaden Daniels, David Montgomery, Terry McLaurin, or Jared Goff, Saquon Barkley, Hollywood Brown.
I would say the Saquon Hollywood side, but I don't think you should be playing Goff in cash games. So I guess it's the Daniels side, but I would try to, I don't know. I guess it's the Daniels side.
I'd still go that Goff side for me just because
Yeah.
it's a 32-point total. Like they're not going to only run the ball in, like he has a lot of potential to rack up some points.
You're probably right. And I don't think you should be playing Montgomery on DK Cash. So yeah, I guess I'd go the Goff side.
FanDuel single showdown slates, Butker and Pacheco or Hunt and Hollywood Brown.
I'd go the Hunt
and Brown by far.
Yeah, definitely Hunt and Brown.
Best plays for Lions Commanders single game FanDuel Cash. I have Jameson Williams MVP. Well, FanDuel Cash, you want to pick the guy who's going to be scoring the most points at your MVP. It's not like DraftKings where you need the salary. So for a cash game, I would not play Jameson Williams at MVP. Tournaments, large field tournaments, absolutely load him up. He'll be a good low owned option. But in cash, it has to be Jaden Daniels or Jahmyr Gibbs. No other options for a FanDuel Cash MVP on that showdown slate. Has to be Gibbs or Jaden Daniels. DK Cash, Daniels, Montgomery, McLaurin, or Goff, Saquon, Hollywood. Brandon, we just answered that one. We picked the Goff, Saquon, Hollywood side. Tim doesn't love Goff and Cash, but neither is Montgomery really a cash gameplay. Goff or Pat Mahomes, Saturday only, straight up. Who you got scoring more points?
I don't know. It's so close between those two. I guess I would just want correlation in my lineup, to be honest with you. Whoever
pick
you got the most
one correlates.
receivers.
Personally, I would go Goff.
Yeah. It's so
I would
close.
go Goff in a vacuum, but I would be, again, picking whichever one correlates more with my lineup. I just think those destroy. Especially if I'm playing Saturday only, I think it's okay for the whole weekend as well. But especially if I'm playing Saturday only, my favorite build on the slate is just the full Detroit onslaught stack. Play Goff, play both running backs, play Williams, play St. Brown, play Laporta, and just say, hey, these guys score 45. Nobody else scores more than 25. And they blow the rest of the slates away. We have reached lock. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. We will be back later today. Well, I won't be, but Tim will be back with Will later today for some NFL Showdown and NBA content. So make sure you tune in for that one. Smash the like button before we get out of here. And then Britt and I will be back tomorrow for the 2-game slate on Sunday. So thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. On behalf of myself and Tim, we'll see you next time. Peace.